Mike, there's been lots of talk recently about how much Rice is going to go for in the summer. Inevitably, how much Rice is going to go for in the summer. I think every West Ham fan can now safely accept that is now a realistic outcome. And, it's just a matter of when. And it looks like it's going to be this summer with his kind of contract getting towards the end. He'll only have a year left when it reaches the summer with our option to extend. But it looks like now's the time to sell as an asset as well. So I guess the question is, how much is he worth? Because there's been a lot of, quotations out there of different values. And we've seen with this January transfer in particular, how much players can actually go for. You see Enzo Fernandez going to Chelsea for 120 million euros. How much is Rice actually worth?
Yeah, I think the important thing you raised is the contract length, right? Is he has essentially a 2-year contract. And that will play a part in any team looking to negotiate because they go, well, we wait till next year will be cheaper. Unless we turn around and go, well, you can wait till next year, but the price is still going to be £80 million. So in fact, you're going to have to wait 2 years and then go into a bidding war with other clubs to get him on a free contract. So someone ultimately is going to pay a price that we set. It's just how low or how high our bar is. But ultimately, I think, I'm not going to put in a figure is, I think, a bit of a, it's a bit unrealistic. But ultimately, when people say, what is he worth? Everyone will have an opinion. But ultimately, what he's worth is whatever West Ham say he's worth.
Yeah.
And whatever a football club is willing to pay for him. That is his worth. It's as simple as that. There's no other way in which to... There's no other correct way in which to say it. If West Ham say he's worth 120 million, he's worth 120 million because that is his price to, or his value to West Ham.
Yeah.
If a club comes in and says, look, we're only willing to pay 90 million pounds, then that is the market value to that football club. Doesn't mean that their value is wrong. Doesn't mean our value is right. It just means that is how both clubs have valued that asset. And that's exactly what it is, right? It's an asset that has been valued by two separate parties looking to negotiate.
I think what we also have in our favour is I don't see him forcing a move. I don't see it getting to that point. So I think we've kind of already told him, look, stay with us until the summer and you'll get your move if the right offer comes in. And it's exactly that. You see it so many times like, oh, he's not worth this, he's not worth that. But to West Ham, he is. He's worth that. He's been such a consistent level above everyone in our squad for the last 2 or 3 seasons now. He's developed into a captain. He's developed into a leader on the pitch. He's developed into such a good player and one of the best in Europe in that position, which is why would we accept, say, I don't know, 50, 60 million? Why would we do that? It's, you see what happened with Caicedo in the transfer window. Brighton rejected 60 million and 70 million bids from Arsenal because he's worth more than that to them. And that's exactly the point we should be making. We should hold very firm this summer, because there will be clubs interested and there will be clubs that do put in those bids to what I think his value actually is.
Yeah, I think the other thing is, though, when you look at Brighton, they can also have, in very recent times, turn around to say Arsenal and go, well, we rate Caicedo above Ben White. You bought Ben White for £55 million. We think he's worth 30 to 40 million pounds worth more than Ben White is.
Yeah.
We've just sold Cucurella for 60 million pounds or 66 million pounds, whatever it was.
Yeah.
We think he's worth more than him. So they have benchmarks within their own club that they can set to other clubs and say, well, no, we value him more than we value that player. And we can justify it because we've got that money for those 2 players. We don't have that. What's our benchmark? Well, we got 25 million pounds for Arnautovic when he went to China.
Yeah,
that's it. That's our benchmark. Had we sold Payet at the time when PSG came calling for about 60 million, we could have used that as a benchmark. It would have been a long time ago. But like, listen, we sold a player then who was world class for 60 million quid, and that was 60 million pounds then.
Yeah,
selling this is a world class player that we're selling now. That value now is cheap. It's like if you want that type of player to come into your club. So I think that's one of the problems we have. We don't have benchmarks. I do think Sullivan probably has, fetishized having £100 million player at his club. And I think that will be it. It'll be like, I want 100 million. Yes, he'll probably negotiate down from that point, but I think he will say, I want 100 million or I want a British record because he is arguably the best or one of the best defensive midfielders in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And then when you take that out into Europe, people might go, well, he's not played Champions League. It's like, no, he hasn't, but he played Europa League, was one of the best players. He's playing in this one. Hasn't played as much because with the rotation, but
he's also been one of the best performers in England.
He would have absolutely dominated. But you then just look at, well, for England, he's one of England's best players. Even when people go, well, he's limited. But that's because of the formation he plays in. And in fact, if you actually look at it in the sense of what he does in that role, it's exceptional. In the role he's asked to do, he's absolutely exceptional. And when you think back when the Euro final, Italy turned around and were like, well, the moment they took off Rice, we
changed the game.
Better because all of a sudden they've taken off their best player, which is, again, I think that's a cultural thing there, that they appreciate a player who is far more aware tactically and defensively. I think in this country, we tend to look down on those type of players. We look at Bellingham, for instance, and go, well, no, that's £100 million.
Yeah.
Declan Rice, that's not. And I think the point you made, Enzo Fernandez has just gone to Chelsea. He's gone for a British record.
Yeah.
So the argument is, well, that's a player that even says that he wants to emulate Declan Rice and watches clips of him to improve himself.
Exactly.
You turn around and go, even your own player, especially if Chelsea came in, even your own player looks at him in which to improve his game. He is at least on par, if not more, than what you paid for him, regardless of contract length.
I think it's quite interesting how you compare, like, someone like Bellingham, and easily everyone will be like, oh, he's easily 100 million, 120 million. And I think it's just because of the kind of mindset people have of Declan Rice. It's not, someone like Bellingham, he's going to go forwards and score more goals. So instantly in their mind, like, oh, he's got to be worth more. He does so much. He's box to box. He can do both. We actually look at what Rice does in playing as a six and what you would want your six to do. You are not going to find many better right now. And that is what we should be pushing to clubs that come in. He's played in the Premier League for so many years. He's a captain. He plays for England. He's one of the best in his position in Premier League and Europe. There's no reason for us to lowball. I think the last question I want to ask you is, how cheap do you think Sullivan would sell for? Because I know you said, oh, we'd love like 100 million, but what do you think's like the lowest he will go this summer for Rice?
I think this summer you would probably say 80 million, and he will definitely be in squeaky bum time. I genuinely believe that. And, I think that if someone offers him 80, it's not the amount he's ever been offered for a player. And in his mind, that maybe offsets the summer. But again, also, we're assuming that even Sullivan's around to sell him.
Yeah.
There could be, it's a complete, fantasy, but you never know that we may get a set of owners that come in that want to do basically a bit of a Todd Bewley and say, I'm going to go and spend X amount of money. I'm going to make you the highest paid player in this club, and I'm going to build around you and do everything I can to get you to that level without you leaving. That could happen. It could be a charm offensive with a contract. Now, that's ultimately nearly fantasy, but I just want to go back to the Bellingham point, right? People will say Bellingham is worth 100 million this summer. Bellingham has 2 years left on his contract at Borussia Dortmund. Declan Rice has 2 years in his contract. Now, both are integral to their country. Both are deemed as arguably in the top 5 in their position.
Yep.
In the world. So why is Bellingham okay to be £100 million and Declan Rice isn't?
I think it's just the age difference between the two. But even looking at Rice, he's 24. He's not 27 or 28. He is 24 years old. It's still young.
No, exactly. And as you say, age will be a point where people go, well, he is a lot younger and that's his talent level. So that's fine. But we're also talking about Declan Rice. Bellingham, you could argue, whilst he could improve, is probably nearer to his top level because he's played at that level, potentially. Whereas Rice could, by playing in a better team with better players, could go up another level, potentially. Again, this is all, speculation and hypotheticals. But, when you look at it, Rice is whatever we say he's worth. I believe that we will try and push for 100 million. David Moyes has said that he thinks he'll go for a British record and then more. So to have that level of confidence would potentially suggest that there has been conversations already with clubs, and we've told what the price is, and maybe teams have not completely balked at the idea, because there's every chance there'll be money up front and then the rest is weighted in clauses and so on. But I think ultimately, he is worth. He is £100 million player if we say he is, and he's £100 million player because I think a team would potentially pay it for him, especially if, let's say, the summer. Now, I don't think Arsenal would ever pay that kind of money, but let's just, argument's sake, Arsenal come in, Manchester United come in. I know United fans will say, well, we won't because we've got Casemiro, but the truth is Casemiro's not a spring chicken. You need a longer term option.
Yeah.
There's been speculation Real Madrid might come looking. So if they wasn't to get Bellingham, they might then go, well, we'll get this player to sit in the middle of, Tchouaméni and Camavinga. All of a sudden, that's a pretty impressive trio as well.
Yeah.
Liverpool are desperate for midfielders. They've been missing out. If they get taken over in what's been talked about, which is maybe, again, Saudi money, they're going to want to make a splash. And what a way to make a splash by going over to someone like Declan Rice. So I think ultimately his price is going to be dictated by how many clubs we can generate interest for. I think ultimately, if we think we are going to sell him between now and the end of the season, that's what the board is going to be doing, is getting an interest and drumming up interest to get clubs to come in.
Yeah. Again,
even Man City, Rodri didn't have a great game today, and they need players because, well, quite frankly, the likes of Kevin Phillips have absolutely flopped, and their team's getting older and they need to bring in some fresh young blood. So, arguably there could be 4 or 5 teams with a lot of money or money to spend who are going to look at him. So I think that's the only way we really get to 100 million, because I don't necessarily think that Sullivan is going to be able to resist if someone comes in at £80 million after a kind of protracted kind of talks, that he is going to be able to say, no, I'm not going to sell him to what I get him. I don't think he's going to do what Levy did with Real Madrid and say, I don't care, his contract can run down. I've asked you for this much money and you pay me that much money, and then doesn't go to the next season.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, I don't know, maybe it's
I think there will be a lot of clubs this summer. I think, like you mentioned, all of the top Premier League clubs probably will be looking at him. Maybe bar Spurs, because we probably wouldn't sell to Spurs, but all of the others. And then there's probably a Real Madrid in there that would. But let us know in the comments, what do you guys think? How much do you value Declan Rice at? And I think we're all in agreement, as I said at the start, that he probably will leave this summer, and it's probably the time to sell, especially because we don't want to drag it out and it gets ugly and it turns into something sour, and we don't want that. So let us know in the comments, how much do you think he's worth and how much do you think we'll actually get for him in the summer. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well, and Mike, until next time,
come on, you Lions.